Jennifer Lopez is one of the most famous entertainers on the planet. For over 3 decades, she's been an absolute force in music, film, and fashion. A global icon and one of the rare celebrities who had the power to dominate headlines. But in 2024, she made a $20 million gamble that turned into one of the biggest flops of her career. Her album, This Is Me, Now, was supposed to be her comeback. Instead, it was overshadowed by her divorce, mocked by critics, and quietly buried by fans. And it proved that not even Jennifer Lopez can buy cultural relevance. What was meant to be a defining moment in her legacy turned into one of the most infamous flops of her career.
I don't expect anybody to get this.
Well, good, because nobody does.
So Jen's been in the game for a long time. She first ended up on people's radar when she showed up as a fly girl dancer on In Living Color. But that's not what put her on the map. It was actually her breakout role in the movie Selena, 1997. And just like that, she started building her empire, blending Latin rhythms with catchy pop hits, and dance anthems like If You Had My Love, and the iconic Jenny from the Block.
My mother was Jennifer Lopez, I would be from the block too. Yes, you would. No, maybe not. Because if you were my kid, you wouldn't be from the block.
She wasn't just making music. She was redefining the early 2000s. From selling millions of copies and going quadruple platinum, the young star became the talk of the music industry overnight. Fast forward to 2024, and J.Lo wasn't just working on music. After being in the game for so long, she wanted to do something different. And so she decided to pour her heart, soul, and fortune into one of the boldest projects of her career. This Is Me, Now. It was a shocking revelation. You see, the singer hadn't stepped into a studio for a decade, but she was finally making a return, and that too with a full-on multimedia experience. The project had 3 parts: her first studio album in 10 years, a glossy and emotional visual musical, and a raw behind-the-scenes documentary. Fans were overjoyed, but that wasn't even the most shocking bit. Apparently, Jennifer didn't chase after labels or investors to bring her vision to life. Instead, she bankrolled the entire thing on her own. Why? Because this wasn't another one of her projects. It was a personal love letter to her fans, her career, and her rekindled romance with Ben Affleck. She wanted to tell the world her truth on her own terms. So, from the album to the cinematic love story film, everything came out of J.Lo's pocket. And guess what? None of it was cheap. J.Lo had to empty her bank account by a jaw-dropping $20 million. Surprisingly, she wasn't concerned about the number of zeros on that price tag. Lopez said, "We went in over budget. It was a challenging project in that way. It's like there could have never been enough money for the project. We didn't have endless funds from a studio. This was a very independent project that I was self-financing, so it was very challenging producerially." She also revealed that outside investors were supposed to back the project, but the financing fell apart. However, Jennifer refused to let her vision die. She whipped out her own checkbook. Of course, she knew it was a risky move, but she didn't care. She had a vision, and that's all that mattered. Here's what she said in one interview. "Everybody thought I was crazy when I said I would self-fund the film. We did have financing, and then that fell out. They pulled out at the last minute. And then it was that moment where you go, okay, do we just make a video or do we go ahead and do this thing?" And that right there is proof that the project was personal to her. It wasn't just another music video meant to put her back in the race. J.Lo was putting her love story, her vulnerabilities, and her entire legacy on display. Now, one thing's for sure. Turning something as intimate as love and heartbreak into a blockbuster-style production is not a walk in the park. By staking a whopping $20 million out of her own fortune, J.Lo was betting on the power of Bennifer to turn her real-life romance with Ben Affleck into a cinematic fairy tale. Unfortunately, it looks like the singer is not much of a gambler. Because her vision? It was shattered into pieces. Why? Well, you see, no one was interested in Bennifer anymore. Jennifer probably saw the project as raw, romantic, and authentic. But fans? They weren't on the same page. They had moved on ages ago. And so for them, it made no sense to rush to the cinema to watch a worn-out love story they weren't interested in anymore. The worst part? J.Lo's former publicist, Rob Shooter, was on the same page. He told the Post, "Jennifer's always been a marketing and PR genius, but her biggest miscalculation here is that she thinks the world is still interested in Ben and Jennifer's love story. But no one cares about Bennifer anymore. The world has moved on." But that was just the tip of the iceberg. While Lopez was trying to promote her album, the press was focused on something else entirely. Rumors of a rocky marriage to Ben turned into front-page headlines. For a record marketed as a celebration of their love, the timing couldn't have been worse. Instead of discussing her music, the media was dissecting her divorce. And it wasn't like the tabloids were chasing rats in a dark alley. The cracks were there, leading many to question the timing of J.Lo's cinematic love letter. What's ironic is that Lopez had actually drawn inspiration from Affleck's private letters. She used them as creative fuel for her songs and film. Something that was meant to be a grand romantic gesture was serving as inspiration for her songs and film. That almost seems like an invasion of privacy. And that's exactly how Ben felt. Sources close to the actor revealed that he wasn't too happy about Jen sharing his pieces. In fact, he was surprised, taken aback. His exact words were, "I did really find the beauty and the poetry and the irony in the fact that it's the greatest story never told. If you're making a record about it, that seems kind of like telling it." And just like that, 2024, the year that was supposed to take J.Lo's career to the next level, turned out to be a professional disappointment with a possible divorce overshadowing her artistic comeback.
I think it's the kind of most honest record that I've ever made, and I feel very connected to it.
But that wasn't the worst of it. J.Lo landed in the trenches when her project was actually released for the entire world to see. There was no hype, no praise, just disappointment. The Ringer described it as overproduced and uncanny. Other outlets also joined in. The New York Post argued that the thought of people still being interested in J.Lo's love story with Ben was misguided from the beginning. Interestingly, it wasn't just critics. Fans hated the release as well. Instead of celebrating J.Lo's big comeback, most people made a mockery of the project. And so what J.Lo had envisioned to be a love-fueled artistic triumph was now a cringeworthy spectacle. One person said, "A new album was a mistake in the first place. It's been 10 years since her last one, which wasn't really groundbreaking even if I liked it myself." Almost nobody follows J.Lo for music nowadays, and the younger generations only know her as a diva, not an artist. She should have just stuck to making films with Amazon. Meanwhile, another person said, "The film portrays her as a horrible, selfish, and deeply narcissistic addict who can't sing. The film is bad, the album is bad, she's going to take a bath. Deserves it though. Maybe she should do some charity work for the less fortunate, and then she'll be able to put her pain and heartbreak into perspective." The sad part is that if we take a look at the project commercially, it wasn't any better. Instead of climbing back on the charts, the album stumbled out of the gate, debuting at number 38 on the Billboard 200. First week sales were incredibly low. Some reports pegged them at just 14,000 copies, while some stretched it to 18,000. Either way, it was one of J.Lo's weakest chart performances ever. And of course, it didn't just stop there. J.Lo's Hotshot tour, which was supposed to bring the project to life on stage, was a major failure as well. Low ticket sales and empty arenas led to multiple cancellations. That's when the singer rebranded it from "This Is Me Now, the tour" to "This Is Me Live, the greatest hits." Most people believed that it was a last-ditch effort to recover some of that massive $20 million investment. Unfortunately, even the flip in the script couldn't save it. And in the end, J.Lo had no choice but to call it off. Of course, in the fans' eyes, the reason was obvious. But that's not the picture J.Lo wanted to paint. Her publicists told media outlets that she did it to focus on family. But no one was willing to buy that explanation. A lot of folks believed that J.Lo only did that because she had no choice. The tour wasn't selling tickets. Her project was a massive failure, and canceling it was the only way to stop things from getting worse. Those aren't speculations, those are cold, hard facts. And so at the end of the day, J.Lo's $20 million gamble was hinged on vulnerability. But that vulnerability became a spectacle. Critics and audiences saw it as something that was forced, self-obsessed, and even outdated. Her album, a documentary, and a global tour were supposed to be her grand return, but instead, with weak sales, poor performance, and critical backlash, it became a failure. Her story is proof that in today's music industry, even the biggest names can't guarantee success, because fame can buy a lot of things, but it can't buy relevance.